Hey! Almost missed the landing zone there. O Mane, O Patri, in Filii, in Spiritus Sancti. Yeah. I hope I don't use the word offend, but I don't affront anybody in saying, the idea of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and this idea of the Trinity, is far, far more ancient, specifically antecedent to that particular religion. And the Platonists, Neoplatonists, Pythagoreans, and even the Egyptians talked about the third holy thing. And I'd actually like to get into that. Hey, grab my iPad over here. Just a couple quotes. And I'm surprised I've never done a video on this. And there's certainly no videos on this. Let's talk about Trinity, of course, but in the context of religion. I'm talking about its original, because religion, of course, is secularized metaphysics. It's something that comes later and gets organized, and then it turns into groupthink, kind of like politics. It becomes something profane and awful. You have these rules and symbolism and icons and people with fancy robes and people oppressing other people with their power. Yeah, this is where all the evil things come from. Evil comes from ignorance, of course, but I'm talking about the earthly manifestation of evil. So there's a third holy thing. I don't use the word holy. Sanctified, transcendent. It is the case that someone, I remember this from a video, was brought out of the Amazon, and they've never seen electronics, and they saw a TV set, and I think there's even movies like this of like cavemen that were brought into the future or something like that, and they immediately smashed the TV set looking for the little people inside. And it is the case that materialists and atomists, not finding something within something, will thence, without hesitation, deny that that thing exists. Men are more objective than women. I mean, that's just the nature of men, obviously. This is the reason why I think men, my personal opinion, actually it's a fact, men make horrible nurses. They're not, I don't use the word motherly, they're just not as caring. Men are more objective, so they're more likely to be atomists. I've certainly met female atomists. I'm not typifying one gender over another, but about the secrets of physics and metaphysics is this idea of atomism, where you cannot find something in something. It'd be like ignorantly, of course, using the radio analogy once again, looking for a signal inside of the radio, which is completely preposterous, and saying, well, signals don't exist. I actually debated this for decades. I'm getting to the third holy thing here quickly, but I'm leading up to that, if you will. Debated this Termanara, or Anatman, by these Buddhists who, all of which today are soul deniers. So Buddhism, and this is their words, not mine. Buddhism is different than Hinduism. There's no such thing as a religion of Hinduism, by the way. Not the Gita, not the Vedas, not the Upanishads, the texts of Hinduism. Hindu refers to a people, it's not a religion. Buddhism is different than Hinduism because it teaches that there is no soul. Well, this is not only preposterous, it's completely illogical. There would be no foundation for amata, i.e. immortality, amata, or amrita. Amata, amrita, same word. Transcendence would be impossible. Immortality would be impossible. Nibbana would be impossible. Nibbana is just a Pali word for nirvana, which is a Sanskrit word. And what is nibbana? Suvimutta chatasa nibbana. The thoroughly liberated nous, or spirit, i.e. spiritus sancta, means nirvana. Liberated is the only thing, actually, within the five Nikayas, of which I'm a Pali translator, that is liberated from the psychophysical, which is Rupa, Vedana, Sama, Sankhara, and Vijnana, i.e. these psychophysical components. I said, well, there's no soul there. They said, this is anatta, that is anatta. And I just face-palmed myself for decades in debating these people. It's like, it's just completely ridiculous. That's the fallacy of composition. You're engaging in profane ignorance, of the highest magnitude of profane ignorance. This is not the soul, that's not the soul, that's not the soul, that's not the neither is that. Therefore, there is no soul. There's no passage within the Nikayas that denies the soul. And I'm building to a point here and talking about the metaphysics that, and this is true of atomism as well, they are no different than the soul-denying nihilists, the atheists. True atheism, by the way, is called metaphysical atheism. Has nothing to do with God or no God, by the way. True atheism is called metaphysical atheism. Go look it up. It's a denial of a substrate to animation, i.e. to life. It would be like denying the signal. Well, there's no signal in the radio. I went looking for it and there ain't nothing there. It's like, well, you're right. We're getting to the third thing. Looking for a soul inside of the body. Actually, ancient people were known, and they say, look, well, inside of a person's body, man, there's nothing in there. There's flesh and blood and guts and filth, and there's no soul in there. Souls don't exist. This is a very myopic form of metaphysical stupidity, specifically agnosis, that objectivists, atomists, go looking for something and not finding it. It doesn't exist. It's like somebody living in Florida going looking for snow, saying snow doesn't exist. Well, of course there ain't no snow in Florida. So there is this third thing. And this gets back to the point that everybody asks the question. They say, what happens when we die? I love hearing that question. And too, the question is answered another question. What makes you think you are that which dies? Of course, life we have down here, ontos, is the consubstantiality of two things, matter and spirit. But the ancients, including the Egyptians and the Pythagoreans, I like to read a couple passages here, said a third thing is necessary for that to exist. Here's the specific Pythagorean triangle. I actually kind of drew it wrong. Right here up at the head is 1 over 5 to the power of negative 3, or specifically just 1. 1 over 5 to the power of negative 3, which is tattooed right here on the inside of my right wrist, is the expression of the one against itself, i.e. the good and the good. Like light and illumination. Light and illumination is one thing. We only differentiate them out as principle and attribute. And of course the two slopes here are 1 and the base is phi. And of course phi would be synonymous with life, or ontos. But there's an incommensurable cut, and incommensurability exists everywhere within this specific geometry, even though I drew it wrong. I did it freehand, which is 1 over phi. That third thing which makes the base possible. Because matter and spirit require a third thing. Yeah, the broadcast, which would be analogous to life, requires a third thing. Well, we have the signal, which would be the spirit. Yes, and we have the radio, yeah, which is analogous to matter. And we have the broadcast, which would be analogous to life, right? But it requires a third thing, because without this antenna, this radio is pretty much nothing. Even if it were an expensive radio. And here's that third thing. And the Greeks and the Pythagoreans and the Egyptians talked about that third thing. And I'd like to get to it very quickly here and make things simple. And by the way, this is where the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost came from. The Father is the agathon, or the absolute. The Son is the ontos, or being. And the third thing, or the Holy Ghost, that which holds them together. That which is specifically the Logos. But the Logos is not a thing. It's not a palpable object. And it's just like these soul-denying nihilists, these materialists. And really, fundamentally, from a metaphysical standpoint, the aether is no different than talking about the soul. It's like, I got no objective proof of it. I can't find a soul and I can't find the ether. It's like, well, dummy, you're looking for something that is subjective in the objective world. Here's the object. I went looking everywhere for it and I couldn't find it. I couldn't find any little people in the TV. I couldn't find any soul in the body. And I couldn't find a signal in the radio. Well, you're right. Therefore, they don't exist, because if I can't stick it underneath a microscope or cut it with a scalpel, it certainly does not exist. Anyway, this is from fragments of Philolaus. Pythagorean Philolaus said the sun is vitreous. I get to the good part here. I'm going to say there's two suns, the body of the fire, which is in heaven, and the igneous light, which emanates from them and reflects itself a kind of mirror. Perhaps we must consider a third light, that which from this mirror which it reflects and falls back into us to disperse the rays. That's one not as clear as the Timaeus. By the way, the Timaeus is attributed to Plato, just like the Parmenides and fragments of within Republic do not belong, nor were they written by Plato. They're very ancient. The Greek within the Parmenides and the Timaeus is much, much older than Plato himself. So Plato did not write the Timaeus. Neither did Socrates, or predates him. This is from 31b to 32c of the Timaeus. Now that which comes to be must be bodily, so visible and tangible. And nothing can be visible without fire. Tangible is something solid, nothing solid without the earth, and hence the divine when he began to put this body of the universe together, said about making it of fire and earth. But the two things alone cannot be satisfactorily united without a third. And this actually goes on to talk about being. For there must be some bond between them, drawing them together, the consubstantiality of which, i.e. the glue. I mean, what is the glue that holds matter and spirit in conjunction, which is a logos? Yeah. And a logos is not a thing. Neither is the ether a thing, neither is the soul a thing. What is this logos, which is not demonstrable, not objective, not palpable? You can't hold it in your hand. What is that logos? In the case of life, that logos is water. That third thing. For there must be some bond between them, drawing together all bonds. The best, which makes the self and the terms connecting unity in the full sense of nature, consists of a geometrical proportionality, i.e. the logos. What is the logos, or the glue, which bonds spirit to matter? What is the holy third thing? Yeah, matter and spirit, Father, the Son. What is that which binds them? What is that which holds? There's actually a fourth thing. What brings it together anyway is avidya, or the extrinsic attribute, the dynamis principle of manifestation to begin with, because without it then there is, of course, no loss of energy or inertia, and there is a transcendence. There is absence of a loss of energy or inertia, as the case of avidya, that one is manifest. Light without illumination is pure inertia. You know, what would be light without inertia? Well, analogous, it would be flipping off the light switch and you have zero loss of energy. Of course, all batteries are leaky, but imagine a 100% purely efficient battery. Then it would be a battery that would contain within itself energy in perpetuity forever and ever with no loss, and it would have no manifest objective component whereby which it combines two things, i.e. the glue that brings about the consubstantiality of matter and spirit that gives us life. And of course, in the case of the signal and the radio, broadcast being life, we have the third thing, the proportionality. And by the way, all antennas have proportionality. Some are directly either quarter wave, half wave, or full wave antennas, such that they have the best gain. And that is, a gain is nothing other than a proportionality vector in the case of a wire. I mean, why is it this length of wire is better than a wire that's longer? It's like, well, this one is quarter wave. It is a logos to the signal, i.e. it is a harmonic. Look up antenna wavelength. Quarter wave, half wave, or full wave. Full wave being the best. If it's directional, it even has better gain. But if I replace this with a piece of, and this is actually curled up inside this rubber ducky antenna, by the way, if I actually curled up a longer piece of wire, it would have worse gain. It's like, why? It's a bigger antenna, it should have more gain. Well, no, because it no longer has a ratio of proportionality or a harmonic to the UHF VHF signal which this thing transceives with. And the same is true of life. This is the reason why everybody's crazy too, by the way, because we're all taking in chemicals and drinking filth and eating filth. I mean, and I know I'm fat, but I actually don't eat toilet water, which is the stuff that comes out of the tap, recycled toilet water. It must be this third thing. This is the first, so it is the last, conversely the last in the middle of the first, on and on and on. Actually, I want to bore you with, this is actually the dialectic of monistic metaphysics within the Timaeus, which far predates Plato. Accordingly, the divines set water and air between fire and earth and made them for possible. Anyway, it goes on to talk about the three things that make up life. This is the third holy thing. Holy is kind of a conventional word that people have a lot of crazy ideas about what it means. It is something that is not objective, it is not palpable. The same reason why we have ether-denying atomists. Well, I can't hold it in my hand, I've got no objective proof that it exists. It's like, why don't you prove to me that you love your mother? Well, I do love my mother. Ask one of these nihilists or these atomists. Well, unless you could scoop some out and put it in my hand, I don't believe you do love your mother. The entire world has been built upon things that nobody has ever held in their hand. They're not visible. They're totally invisible. Faith, love, hope, fear, anger, lust, desire, on and on and on. These are not objective things. Nobody denies them, and the entire world has been built upon them. And yet people will deny the soul. They will deny the Spirit the Sanctum, the holy thing which is not objective, which binds things together. And that is the logos, which makes this possible. We have matter and spirit here, but matter and spirit do not make life. Matter is a lump of dust, like, you know, like my wife's cremated remains, which are in the back room. It's a box of dust! You know, what has happened? Well, there's been complete disjointment between matter and spirit. The water has been evaporated out, and you have a pile of dust. So what is the third thing? The Logos, which makes life possible. The Logos is not anything anybody's ever seen, ever held in their hand, ever drawn a picture of, but the Logos is 1,000% undeniable. The universe, life, beauty, nothing can exist without the Logos. In the case of life, the perfect Logos is water, is the only geometry in the entire universe that has perfect incommensurability. That's not my opinion. That is a fact. Hardcore, 100% undeniable, 1,000% undeniable. What is that third thing? The third holy thing which makes life possible. Yeah. The third thing right there is the Logos, which goes right there between matter and spirit, that is the glue that makes life possible. Glue, of course, is semi-inappropriate, but still analogously kind of illuminative, and that, of course, is water. This is the very thing these atomists and these soul-denying people, Buddhism teaches there is no soul. Well, that's completely ridiculous. Not only is there no doctrinal passage which supports this, it would make immortality, amrita, impossible. It would make transcendence impossible. It would make nibbana impossible. Yes? It would be impossible. It would be meaningless. It would just be a belief system in morality. You know, it's just completely ludicrous. And nobody's ever gone looking for something that they deny exists. Nobody ever has. Yeah, I don't believe in the soul. Who cares what you believe in? I'm not interested in what you believe in. I'm interested in what is demonstrably logical and is rooted in wisdom. In this soul-denying nihilism, just like atomism, fundamentally from the perspective of these objective materialists, and this is what they all are, is materialists. No different than the relativists and those in quantum that don't believe in the ether, and I don't care what anybody believes. I believe in the ether, everything's just the universe is a giant bag of bumping particles. Like Mother Nature's some crazy, insane hippie chick, and she got a bag of bumping particles. That's why I call it the cult of bumping particles, or the soul-denying nihilists. It's like, well, liberation is impossible. If there were no soul, then liberation, immortality, amata gami maga, the path to immortality, amata gami maga, path to immortality. But it's ridiculous. Psychophysicality has no basis of immortality. I said, well, sure it is. It's like oblivion. That's immortality. So, yeah, that's just ridiculous. There's no such passage that supports that. It's illogical. It's nonsensical. He's just a materialist. The Logos, the third thing, which is the third holy thing, which binds things together, is the Logos, the principle. No different than the ether, no different than the soul, no different than the signal. Imagine a stupid person with a few brain cells he's able to rub together. Just a few. Hey, radio, the signal, and I don't believe in a signal because I can't hold it in my hand, and it's not in the radio, and I just don't believe the signal exists. Of course, everybody else knows there's a signal, right? Of course you know there is, because you basically were taught what a radio is. It's just a receiver. In this case, it's a transceiver, right? But you're not stupid enough to think that there is no signal. Most of you aren't, yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if some people think a signal, people these days are not that bright. I bet a lot of people do think that a signal comes from, through, and originates at the radio. It's like, this is ridiculous. These objectivists, these materialists, which are no different than the cult of quantum, the cult of bumping particles, the relativists, these are materialists. If they can't hold it in their hand and touch it, and the Logos, which makes life possible, is water. Yeah? This is the antecedent principle, which is not in the thing. There's no soul in the body. There's no real fireplace in this computer. There ain't no signal in this radio. By the way, what's coming out of that speaker is the broadcast. The broadcast is not to be confused with the signal. There is no ether anybody could hold in their hand. There's the ether. We finally found it. If you could hold it in your hand, it would be objective. It would have a Cartesian value of mass and magnitude, and it wouldn't be the ether. It's impossible. This is what happens when you have materialists, i.e. atomists, i.e. nihilists, dictating the science, the sciences. These people are not scientists, they're materialists, they're mathematicians. Mathematician is a religion. Fact, not my belief. Mathematics is a religion that believes if you can't count it, it don't exist. You've got to be able to hold it and count it. Here's one of them, here's two of them. It's math. If I can't count it and I can't see it and I can't hold it, it don't exist. That's why they don't believe in the ether. It's why they, I don't care what people believe in. They deny the soul, they deny the ether, they deny the logos. This is the fruit of atomism. So this is the third holy thing. This is the true, original metaphysical trinity. The logos, that which makes these two things possible to join, such that we have a thing that we cherish, and life, the glue that binds matter and spirit together. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you ever want to contact me, my information is in the description below. Any donations are always warmly welcome. Lux e Veritas. I wish you a happy new 2023 in this February of 2023. Goodbye.